Hey everyone, Chris Cervenka here. Super excited. We're at Carolina Motorsports Park with Hooked on Driving, and today we have the brand new S650 MagneRide Controller from DSC Sport. We're going to tell you all about it, install, on-track footage. Stay tuned, it's going to be fun.
Play the bass, boy.
First off, a little about me, if we haven't met already. My name's Chris Cervenka. Been a Mustang enthusiast my entire life. I've been into road course racing for about 8 to 10 years, autocross for 10 plus. This is my 8th Mustang. It is a Dark Horse premium handling pack car, and a little bit of how we have the car set up today. Essentially, in terms of suspension, it is bone stock. All the hardware is stock. The handling package does have the camber plates from the factory. We went ahead and removed those lock nuts, so we have everything alignment-wise where we want it for track use. In terms of brakes, we have Bayer Ratispeed rotors with Carbotech pads, XP20 up front, XP12 in the rear. In terms of rubber, we're running the Hoosier Track Attack Pros. These particular tires have about 3 track days on them so far, so they are pretty well worn in. I'm not expecting any records broken today, but that's not the purpose of why we're here. We're here to test the DSC Sport, do a little bit of tuning, and frankly, as long as these tires are consistent all day long, which they should be, it'd be easy to make those tuning adjustments. We do have the AJ Hartman die planes up front, some Function Factory Performance carbon fiber as well, and one of my favorite pieces of the car is the AWE 3-inch switch path exhaust out the rear, retains the active function, and frankly, it sounds awesome going down the straight. I'm sure you'll hear that in a bit. And in terms of my background with suspension tuning and vehicle dynamics, I used to run Steeda's marketing department back in the day, and that's where I worked with DSC Sport, partnered with them, and got the Steeda MagneRide Controller up and running for them. And now, really excited to be working with DSC Sport on getting the S650 MagneRide Controller launched. We're working with the base calibration. Mike from the DSC team worked really hard to get everything baseline for me. And frankly, we're already at like 80–90%. Really excited to get it out on track and frankly see what we got and make some adjustments from there, and I'll show you how it's done. Super excited to get this installed, but before we do, I want to tell you a little bit more about it. So it is a plug and play installation. It's actually an OEM grade controller with a different board in it. You also have the USB input on the bottom. That way you can plug it into your laptop and make the tuning calibrations. But in terms of installation, we'll show you in a little bit how easy it is. Aside from that, My favorite part about this is that it really expands the capability over the stock MagneRide calibration. I spent a lot of time playing with the calibration on the S650 cars, and it's crazy just how much better in stock form the S650 is with the base MagneRide calibration from Ford. They did an amazing job, and it's a huge step up over S650. However, there's always improvements to be had. There's always room for improvement. So that said, this allows you to make your own custom changes based on your driving style, where you intend to drive the car, whether it's, frankly, a comfort thing, right? Going down the highway, it's a little too stiff for you in stock form with the factory controller on factory springs. You'll be able to modify that, and the base cal also does a really great job right out of the box. But more importantly, when you get into sport mode and track mode, that's where things go to the next level, right? From a sport mode standpoint, obviously that's for your back roads, canyon carving, tail of the dragon, things like that. But where track mode is where this really shines, because it allows you to amp up the amperage that's going, I guess pun intended, right? Amp up the amperage that's going through the MagneRide system and really charge up these shocks, get them stiff, and allow you, with the compliance that's needed, but allow you to tackle any corner on track. One thing to call out about the factory calibration is that each different mode has a pretty narrow window of range, right? So yes, there's MagneRide on this car from the factory, and yes, the controller does have those variable modes that operate in a certain window of milliamps going through the system to each shock. However, it really isn't active past that. You have those narrow windows of operation. It does get stiffer as you go through the modes, but getting something like the DSC Sport MagneRide Controller allows you to take it to the next level, not only custom calibrate it yourself, if you're a nerd like me and like to geek out on that sort of stuff, but also allows you to take in additional inputs to change the calibration, all active at hundreds of times per second, precisely 6 times faster than what S650 was capable of in the factory setup. So that said, with these controllers, you're able to take in through the programming things like throttle input, brake input, steering, pitch, yaw, most importantly, accelerometer, speed. There's launch control features. So whether you're drag racing, road racing, cruising down the highway, this is kind of your all-in-one solution. Yes, it does work with aftermarket spring and sway bar setups, but the cool thing is you can kind of almost add this and be able to manipulate how the suspension behaves without making any hardware changes otherwise. However, if you're like me and also like to make hardware changes like lowering springs and sway bars and all that good stuff, this will work with that as well. You'll obviously adjust the shock just like you would if you had an aftermarket set of adjustable shocks and struts, or even a set of coilovers. If you were to change the spring rates or drop the ride height, you would need to make changes there too if it was a traditional style coilover, just like you would with this, except you do it on a computer, push the button, and it's all done. First thing, disconnect the negative battery terminal, and we'll go ahead and open the trunk. Pull out the cover on the bottom of the trunk, and then after that, you have this plastic trim panel that comes out with 4 hand screws, 2 on either side behind the taillight and then further down. And from there, you pull from the bottom, and then the whole plastic trim piece comes up from the top. It's up to you if you want to take out the spare tire kit. You can actually work around it, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it in place. The factory MagneRide controller on the S650 is actually much easier accessible than the S650 cars, where it actually sits behind the passenger taillight, and if you have a sub like this, it's a pain in the butt to get to. With that said, 2 10mm nuts. And with this, there's a pretty hefty connection here. It's almost foolproof in how it's connected to the controller. We want to make sure that we put it on and take it off square. That way all the pins have full connection with the controller. It doesn't throw any body control module errors. So this is actually in the locked position. You want to go ahead and pull this out, and then you'll be able to get this loose. And as you pull this lever, it actually pushes it away from the controller, pushes the connection away from the controller. You can see that. Works its way out. There's a factory MagneRide controller. You can see here that the factory Ford MagneRide controller and the DSC MagneRide controller are literally the same unit. Obviously the logic board is different for the DSC, allowing you to connect to your laptop. But all that said, it's OEM grade for sure. Go ahead and line things up. And make sure everything's lined up and square and not crooked. You hear the click, push it in. I have a USB-A. You can also get USB-C to USB-B cable or micro USB. I'll go ahead and include a link to one of these in the description. But I go ahead and plug that in first. That way I don't need to work around my spare tire kit. But if you took that out, it really doesn't matter. And a pro tip, get an extra long one. That way you can run it through the back seat and make your tuning changes from the laptop from the driver's seat. Another cool thing about the controller is that you can data log. So you can actually select different parameters to see what's happening with the shocks in live time. It does require a decent amount of RAM to be able to do that because of so much data coming into the laptop. But all that said, it's super knowledgeable to have, especially when you're trying to fine tune some things and understand exactly what the shocks are doing at any given time. So the cool thing is you can actually tune these on the bench because they're powered by the computer that they're hooked up to. You don't need to have the car turned on. And if it is plugged into the car, like installed, that's totally fine. Just go ahead and leave the car off. So that said, go ahead and plug in the USB. But aside from that, first thing you want to do before you even connect the device to the computer is make sure that the DSC tuner is set to the proper vehicle. In this case, you would go ahead and go to File, Vehicle Type, Ford, and set it to Mustang/GT/350/500. It's the same profile for basically any S650 Plus Mustang. So now that we have it set for that, you want to make sure the board is connected to your computer via that USB cable. And in order to do that, you hit Reset Board. So you know that the board is connected when it says board is reset. If you get an error message and it says no port could be found, please check your hardware to make sure it's connected or enabled. So I'll go ahead and connect it again. Give it a second for the computer to recognize it. Another thing to add is that this tuning software only works on Windows computers. Reset board, board is reset. Great. And additionally, the controller will come with the base file already installed. But in this particular case, I'm gonna go ahead and pull, just so I can show you, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the file off of the controller, and then I'll save it as its own file, and that way we can start making some changes. So in order to do that, you would hit Read All under the Tools menu, hit Begin. Obviously, there are a lot of parameters here, so it does take a minute to actually pull all those files off of the controller. Also, in the future, it is pretty exciting. DSC Sport's going to have different connection methods to the controller, including wireless in the future, so stay tuned for that as those come down the pipeline. Once you see the G-force table populate with points, you'll know that you actually have everything set in there. There's a lot going on here. I'm not going to give you a full overview. If you want a full overview of how this software works, DSC Sport does have plenty of video content on their YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. But in terms of a brief overview on what to expect for S650, I can show you that. So starting in settings, there are three major modes that DSC takes into account when it comes to MagneRide, right? And same with the factory. You have touring or normal mode, sport mode, and track mode. So when you see yellow, it is a yellow around the border, it's touring or normal. Then red is sport and blue is track. So you can see here, everything is based essentially off of the shock calibration table. If you're going to start somewhere, it's going to be the shock calibration table because pretty much every other tab calls on this table for a single point from 0 to 100% on how much charge is going to be going through in any given shock at any given time. So that said, for the factory, in this particular instance for this calibration, the factory normal mode starts at 0% at 175 milliamps all the way up to 775 in the front, and then 200 at 0%, in the rear all the way up to 800. And you could set your base default rate, basically at curb, right? When the car is sitting still, not doing anything, would be at 12% for normal mode. And I think I have it set to 20% for sport mode, and it's something completely different for track mode. All that said, it's gonna take a minute. It might seem overwhelming at first, and to be honest, it kind of is, but it's overwhelming for a reason, and once you get the hang of it, there's a lot of customization ability that really allows you to dial in your car exactly to your driving style and where you intend to drive it. So essentially, all of the different tabs here factor into this shock calibration table, whether it's G-force or brake or acceleration or speed or steering. There's even a shock calibration, there's even a velocity table that allows you to modify low, medium, and high-speed compression and rebound. So there's a lot of different options here to allow you to really, really dial things in. So that said, again, if you're looking for a more in-depth overview, check out the DSC Sport YouTube channel. In this particular instance, I'm pretty excited to go out and check to see how the track calibration performs out on track. We're still getting the base calibration at this point when the video is being shot ironed out for the S650 with this Dark Horse handling pack. But all that said, we're gonna get it dialed in for you. And by the time you're seeing this video and the product is in your hands, you'll have a really dialed in base file to start making your changes with. Now that you see how it works here in the programming, we're gonna go ahead and take it out on track and see what we got. Well, we just got off track, and frankly, it was a lot of fun. A little bit of traffic out there to start, kind of everything spread out very nicely throughout the most of the session. But in terms of how the DSC Sport MagneRide Controller felt, I was honestly very impressed. To get to this point where we were back tuning the S650 took a lot of time and a lot of perfecting, and we finally got it to where we were happy with it. Right off the bat, some small changes leading up to this, getting to the way where we have track mode currently, but honestly, it was a lot more confidence inspiring. Probably the biggest thing that stood out to me was right before turn 11, the kink here at CMP. It's an area that I've personally been trying to improve on ever since I started racing here. And I know plenty of people with these big rear-wheel drive V8 muscle cars, they just stay flat in it. I've never really had the confidence to do that on the factory calibration until today and on this setup. I didn't necessarily stay flat out on it, but I was on the brakes a lot less. And if I had to guess, I went through the kink probably about 3 to 5 mile an hour faster than I did this morning, even though The sun's been out, conditions aren't as good. My car's slipping around a little bit more than it was earlier this morning, but all that said, it was a lot more confidence inspiring, specifically in that area. Then overall, I'm excited to get back out here with some fresh tires, see what we can do in terms of actually improving the times, because I know it's there over my personal best. But all that said, great to feel that confidence behind the wheel, because at the end of the day, you're able to drive faster if you have that confidence translating between the chassis underneath you to the seat and ultimately to the driver, right? Personally, I'm really excited this is finally coming to market. It's been a long time in the works with DSC Sport and these S650 guys with MagneRide. Be on the lookout for this controller, because it really can change the driving experience for you. You don't necessarily have to add all the hardware that we've historically had to add to these cars, because out of the box, especially the Dark Horse handling pack, it's an amazing package. Ford did an awesome job setting this up from the get-go, right off the dealership floor. But adding this controller to someone like me, who's a geek and a nerd and likes to nerd out on this sort of stuff and see what I can do to make the car just handle a little bit better, it's a lot of fun. And frankly, whether you're cruising down the highway, heading on some back roads or canyons, or out here on track with Hooked on Driving at Carolina Motorsports Park, this is a great option for you. So with that said, hit up dscsport.com to pre-order your controller now. And feel free to follow me and DSC Sport on YouTube, all the Instagram channels, Facebook, etc. You can find me, Chris Cervenka. And until then, we'll see you next time.